Okay, we all set there, Mr. Firth?
That we're streaming now, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Well, good evening, members of council, administration, and those who are streaming from the comforts of your home. Welcome to our public meeting this evening. And so I will now call the meeting to order, and all members of council are present. To the members, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda as presented to you this evening? None. We'll have that duly notified. Report out, no closed meeting was scheduled this evening, and due to the our electronic holding of this meeting this evening, we're going to waive the moment of silence and national anthem. So now we'll move on to the minutes. Members of council, we got the minutes of September 22nd, 2020 regular council meeting, and also the September 29th, 2020 special council meeting on the draft new official plan. I have a motion on those minutes. Deputy Mayor McKetty, Councilor Houston. On those minutes, any errors or omission as presented? I hear none and see none. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Okay, so now let's move on. There are no supplementary items to declare this evening, and also no delegations. And so we'll move on to communications. We have communications 1 through 13. And if I could have a motion to receive said communications, Councilor Jobin and Councilor Tonio. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Communications for action required. We have one from the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Solicitor General, Minister responsible for anti-racism, and that was dated October 2nd, 2020. That the October 2020 letter from the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Solicitor General, regarding anti-racism initiatives of the Ministry of Solicitor General and the Anti-Racism Directorate be referred to the Tecumseh Police Services Board. Moved by Councilor Altenhoff, Councilor Dowie. Support. Questions or comments on that? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. And I will ask, though, members of council, if there's any out of those 13 items of communications, any points of interest you'd like to bring forward at this time. Deputy Mayor McKetty.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm just under item 8. I'm just assuming our administration would have some dialogue or provide input to the City of Windsor PIC, which does involve the former Sangway South lands, all and about abutting also the Charney Road 43 and Banwell area. So I'm not sure if that is the plan.
I'll defer that to administration. I believe Mr. Hillman, if he's on, if there's any intent on looking at, because there may be some opportunities here, obviously, because of municipal boundaries and certainly servicing could, because I'm looking at stormwater retention, which we're already in the midst of doing. So I'll let you, Mr. Hillman, just weigh in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Bartnick and I have discussed this actually, and we will be being engaged through the process. And there are a number of matters that would be of interest to the municipality. As they move through this process, we will certainly ensure that council is kept abreast of matters that require your attention or otherwise. But yes, we will be involved in the process to ensure there's a level of coordination between the municipalities and to certainly to protect our interests as well.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or on communications? If not, then we'll move on to committee minutes. We have first the Policies and Priorities Committee minutes of September 22nd, 2020. I have motion on those. Councillor Tonio moves. Councillor Houston support. On those minutes, any questions or comments? I hear none. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And the second minutes is from the Tecumseh Business Improvement Area. Those are the minutes of September the 9th, 2020. Could I have a motion on those minutes? Councillor Dowie, Councillor Houston, any questions or comments? Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. Just a note, I was absent for this particular meeting, but for anyone who is interested, the annual general meeting will be held tomorrow night. And the information for participating will be at tecumsehbi.com. Should be a good night for business owners to understand how the resourcing of the BI works and where their fees go to.
Okay, very well. On those minutes, all in favor? Opposed, that's carried. So we'll move on to reports. Our first report is prepared by our corporate services and our clerk. It's the CAT intake program renewal agreement. Councillor Dowie and Councillor Jobin. On the report, questions or comments? I've heard none. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next report is also from our corporate services clerk. It's the Lakeshore Tecumseh Inter-Municipal Committee Terms of Reference. I don't know if maybe I could bring, okay, so we'll move it and then we can certainly have comments from maybe the clerk's office as well. Moved by Councillor Dowie, Councillor Houston, support. Madam Clerk, can you give us some highlights on the report?
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report is provided in response to a meeting held at the end of 2019 with Lake Shores Council and the recommendation to develop an intermunicipal committee formed of representatives from both the town of Tecumseh and the town of Lakeshore. So in meeting with the clerk for the town of Lakeshore, we've developed the draft terms of reference that were requested by the two councils. And in brief summary, the committee would be composed of 2 members from each of Lakeshore and Tecumseh, of which both municipalities would select their own respective chair and vice chair. There would be at least 2 meetings held per year. And of course, there could be additional meetings called upon request. Notice of the meetings and the procedures would follow the respective municipalities' procedural bylaw, dependent upon who was hosting the meeting for the evening. And quorum obviously would be a simple majority of the members of the committee and voting similarly by a majority of the members. We do know that the town of Lakeshore, the same report went to their council at their last meeting on the 6th of October. We do know that Lakeshore Council accepted the terms of reference and did appoint councillors Wilder and Wallstead to this committee as their representatives. So before you this evening, we have the same terms of reference that we're asking council to consider this evening. We're also looking for council direction on appointing 2 representatives to the intermunicipal committee to represent Tecumseh, and that we'd be able to communicate council's decision to the town of Lakeshore following this evening's meeting.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moy. Let's look at the terms of reference first, and then we'll certainly vote on that. So we've got, if it's okay with the mover and the seconder on this. Okay, all in favor of the term of reference as presented? That carries. And on the selection for the 2, Deputy Mayor Becchetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the honor of watching the Lakeshore Council meeting when they chose their 2 representatives. And basically, at the end of the day, there was a consensus to appoint 2 members that bordered the municipality. And they chose Councillor Wallstead, I believe, along Manning on the south end, and Councillor Wilder, which is up here in the north end, which, if you look at the equivalency of our municipality, that would be Ward 4, Ward 5. And so if the 2 reps would be interested in being nominated, I'd be happy to nominate Councillor Houston and Councillor Jobin to kind of reflect the same thing that they did and be our representatives on this committee.
Okay, there's a motion brought forward from Deputy Mayor. Do I have support on this motion? Councillor Tonio? Questions or comments? Councillor Altenhoff? Councillor Tobin?
Thank you, Worship. And through you, no, I appreciate the rationale and the reasoning behind it. But I also see, Ward 2, as we know, also butts up against the Lake Shore as well. I leave it as is. I know there's some unique issues that we're certainly seeing here. Kind of the north. Certainly, Lakeshore has just really undertaken an incredible amount of work with regards to paving Old Tecumseh Road, and there's certainly, I think we see a bit of a disconnect there between Lakeshore and Tecumseh with regards to that. So I'm more than happy to sit on the position, but I leave it to council to ultimately make the decision. But I am more than happy to sit on the on this intermunicipal committee if necessary.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jobin?
I certainly would accept if council agrees. I would absolutely be more than happy to sit on the committee.
Councillor Dowie, and then Councillor Tonio.
Thank you, Worship. And I know anybody around the table would be bringing forward our issues of concern. And I guess one item that I think is going to be imminent for the foreseeable future is the continued development of the Amy Croft area. That is going to be driving a lot of challenges our way. And so certainly whoever is appointed, I certainly wouldn't want that part of it to fall by the wayside. So I'm speaking as someone who lives nearby and who drives by that area every day. I think that's a vital topic of discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Tonio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm interested in a position also, but I respect the fact the experience that Brian and Tanya bring to the table. I have the same comments that Andrew has. While you sit on this committee, be cognizant of this Manning Road gateway corridor that we keep developing with Lakeshore. And the biggest issue is obviously, you guys know, is the traffic flow. So I'm confident you guys can do it. And if you ever need somebody to replace you for a meeting that you can't make, I'm available also. So thank you.
Okay, Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I'm certainly happy again to represent our town and council on the committee, and it's a team effort. So certainly the comments about Amy Croft and are taken, and we can certainly should Councillor Jobin and I be appointed to the committee, take those concerns. But, in addition to that, I really see this as, an open slate for, our council to bring any of those specific issues, to Lakeshore, to make them aware. So, be it development, BIA, et cetera. We're all here to work together and, really reach, across the street and work with our neighbors. So certainly happy to, and I accept, the nomination. I'd be happy to serve on the committee.
All right, thank you. I certainly, this is an advisory committee, and I'm glad you brought it up. This is obviously there's no decisions made at that level. It's basically trying to feel out who's, what would be beneficial for both. I think that's what we're trying to look at. Because the biggest issue, I think, confounding our issue is Amy Croft, the Lanou extension, the continued development within that area, the impact to our municipality, the intersection of County Road 19 and 22, as well as Jamsel Drive, all of that with the recently announced move forward by the county. So those are the real critical points, obviously, and concerns. And everybody that's around our table. I certainly understand the difficulty there. And then as well as the connection to Old Tecumseh Road and County Road 23, which is also Brighton Road. The impacts obviously of traffic and those concerns in that particular area. Those are all very, very important to us. And so I certainly want to support all, whoever is I think will do a great job for us. And I'll leave it at that. And so I think both whoever the nominees will understand very clearly, what impacts are there, and then that information will be brought back to us, for further debate and action. So with that, Deputy Mayor has moved, and there was support on the motion. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Tony.
Councillor Tonio seconded the motion, Mayor.
There you go. I second the motion.
Oh, no, I knew he did. I thought he was looking for a question, but that's okay. Okay, so moved and supported. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that motion carries. Okay, the next, we'll move on to Parks and Recreation or Services and PBS 2013, the cancellation of Christmas and Tecumseh activities, or under the pre-pandemic we're referring to. So if you may, Mr. Anthony, if you could bring your report forward, and then we'll move from there.
Mayor McNamara, members of council, certainly once again, unfortunately bringing news that we really don't like to see, but under the current conditions and the limitations on gathering, Christmas in Tecumseh has grown into a spectacular event for our residents. Council has witnessed, we get thousands out along the parade route, and we jam the arena with public skating and Santa Claus and Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and all the activities in between, the Optimist Club. So there's certainly a great number of residents who enjoy that event. Unfortunately, with COVID-19 and the restrictions on indoor and outdoor gathering, it certainly would not allow us to hold that event. And I think as leaders in the community, we're stepping forward and showing that we're doing our due diligence and ensuring that events that are held are certainly small events and such that we don't incur any potential spread of the disease. I can assure council, not unlike the summertime when we had to cancel our programming and obviously the Corn Festival and a number of other events that have been synonymous with the success of our community, that we will continue to work. The program department is looking at some options. We're looking with the senior advisory and the youth advisory committee as well to look at something we can do for our residents, more than likely virtually, which will ensure that we can control numbers of crowds. We're not going to get into a situation where people can congregate, and we'll give our residents some sense of enjoyment at the Christmas time. We don't know what's moving forward here with the numbers, and if they continue to rise, certainly we're looking at more of a reduction in size of gatherings. So we weren't prepared tonight to commit to what we've got planned, because there are certainly some planning projects that have to be finalized, but we can assure you that we will be doing something so our residents do have a sense of community pride. And I'm open for any comments, recommendations.
Mr. Anthony, the only comment I would make, obviously the biggest thing is for the children, and obviously Mr. and Mrs. Claus are a big hit for them, and that maybe just a suggestion, maybe on a Zoom platform, and where kids can weigh in on a Saturday or a Friday or Saturday on a virtual, where they could at least have an opportunity to have a chat with both Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and in particular for the kids, and that through maybe a reserve opportunity for them to call in. And just a suggestion, but We all know that Christmas will come, and he's especially Santa Claus will have to find a way to to get to the kids, but maybe an opportunity for us to offer virtually maybe a potential opportunity.
And that certainly is one of the programs that we're looking at right now. We've been in contact with Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and they have assured that they can take their schedule some time out of their busy schedule to attend a Tecumseh event, and so that the residents can reach out to them.
Oh, that'd be great. Any further questions or comments to Mr. Anthony before I call for a motion? If not, then the motion to accept and adopt the report as presented. Councillor Jobin, Councillor Houston, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. We're gonna have to get you to wear a green suit, Mr. Anthony. Just like that guy with that furry stuff. Okay. Just kidding, by the way, Mr. Anthony. Planning and Building Services. We have the Planning Building Services 2020-34 D19 Desro. That's a zoning bylaw amendment for 13375 Desro Drive. Mr. Hillman, could you bring your report forward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An application's been filed with the municipality seeking a change in zoning on a property that's just on the south side of Desro Drive, just where the original cul-de-sac was at the westerly limit of it. Desro, it now connects through to Sylvester Drive. And the application is seeking permission to have a office type uses on the property within the existing building. It's currently within a defined industrial zone. And prior to council making any decision, in accordance with the Planning Act, a public meeting is required. So we are seeking authorization to proceed to that public meeting. And the report just summarizes relevant policies in relation to provincial policy, county official plan, and the local official plan. One interesting element on this is that Desro Drive, you can see the red line represents the ownership of the property. And of course, Desro at one time in the fairly recent past was actually a cul-de-sac. Since the road is extended westerly, you can see there's a piece of land that extends southerly into this property that is actually municipal property. And there will be some discussions with the current owner who's pursuing this new office use to see if we can't have that land transferred to the property owner, and it helps clean up some unnecessary land holdings that the town has. But that would come forward in a separate report and process. But those discussions are underway, and so yes, we're just seeking authorization to go to a public meeting, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And then pleasure of council moved by Councillor Altonoff, and then support by Councillor Houston, that we move to a public meeting on the zoning bylaw amendment for 1375 Desro Drive. No further questions or comments. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. We'll move on to Public Works, Environmental Services, 2020-08, amendments to the MMS and significant weather event policy. Move by Councillor Dowie and Councillor Altenhoff. Is there any, well, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but is there anything that you'd like to enhance, Mr. Bartnick, before I call a question?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to, I guess, highlight that the report and the policy went before the Policies and Priorities Committee on September 22nd. Mm-hmm. And it did receive, it was received by the committee and approved, and now it's before council today for their consideration.
Okay, and like I said, it's pretty straightforward. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That report is carried. All right, bylaws. No bylaws this evening. That's unusual. Unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business at this stage? None here. Any new business? Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And through you to administration, I've received, or I've spoken with some residents located at 158 Hayes. That's pretty well on the north side of Hayes, kind of at the intersection of Hayes and Fairway. There's concerns there with regards to speeding. I gather, at least from their observations, certainly people will travel down Edgewater and then cut over to, make a left on Hayes to get to the new development. And unfortunately, maybe people are a little bit pedal heavy on that stretch. So they've certainly noted what they believe to be as excessive speeding. And I think the concerns are these residents and a number of other residents in the area, a lot of the children are playing outside in the vicinity of the home. So if we could perhaps just encourage a bit of a stronger police presence in the area, I think, to at least examine it, watch over it, I think that may be beneficial to everyone.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you.
I'm going to defer this to our CAO, Ms. Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to Councillor Altenhoff, are there any more specifics that you can offer? Days of the week, time of day is always helpful information for the police to follow up.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I can inquire with the resident if you like, and then get back to you on that.
That would be very helpful.
I think the general intent of the discussion was it seems like it's kind of consistent all the time. I'll do a little bit of homework and get back to you in the very near future, but you certainly have the coordinates, the address, so I'll follow up with some times and maybe times or days. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any further new business? Just one, maybe for administration, just in the last 2 or 3 weeks in particular, and it seems to be in cycles, we usually get a lot of calls on especially trees. And, whether it's spring or fall poplar trees or cottonwoods or other trees, some of the, we just went through tree cutting in Ward 2 and so forth. Am I correct in saying that there isn't a real definitive policy on trees or tree cutting? And if there is, can we, bring that forward so that we all understand? Number one, we don't cut healthy trees down. We know that, and in particular, folks that sit on IRCA would really understand that, and so forth. If there isn't a definitive policy, but it makes it a lot easier that if even administration were able to basically, here's the policy to individuals, it would make it a lot easier because it's not, different people calling until they try to match up the right answer they want in confusion on why trees are cut or who should be notified. Is, what's the policy if the tree is on municipal property, if the tree is in badly need of being removed, but it could fall on public lands. And I know there's a whole liability issue as well and everything else. Is, not that I want to create another make work project or whatever for administration, but I think that would be in keeping in terms of and making it, kind of black and white. That's what I'd like to be able to, because it seems it's now getting more and more pronounced. People want this tree cut down because they have allergies. People don't like this one because it drops branches. There's all kinds of different reasons why people want to cut trees, but in the reality is we should be planting more trees and saving the ones that are healthy. And so if we could have some sort of a policy working through you, Mr. Anthony, and certainly working with our arborist, Casey, and Public Works are also, I think, key components there. And as you all know, we do have a plan on any new subdivisions being built. They have to plant trees and so forth. So if we could have a solid black and white type policy, and if it's there, I'd like to know exactly what it is. Mr. Anthony?
So I may start, and Mr. Bartnick can maybe chime in if he wishes when I'm finished. There is a policy in place, but it's not a definitive policy that you're speaking of, and one that we're certainly looking to widen and try to reduce some of the concerns, some of the calls that are being made, and put certainly the responsibility on somebody who has that ability to make that call. So we are working on a policy right now. It's a tree maintenance policy, it's a tree planting policy, and we're also trying to incorporate in the provincial government's a request to increase the tree canopy, not reduce the tree canopy. So we're trying to roll it up so it's into one policy. The policy at the end of the day is kind of split between public works and parks, because a large number of the issues that do come up are coming up that are on trees that are in boulevards, in alleyways, etc., which usually fall under public works jurisdiction. However, our parks manager is the only arborist that we do have on staff. And so the policy will be built that the arborist will be the one that will be going out. He will do the inspection on the tree. He will make the call whether it does come down, if it's disease or a danger or liability. If it's not, there may be some tree maintenance to be done. He has the expertise to know how far up can the tree be trimmed. You need a canopy of a certain size so it doesn't, cause danger by being top heavy. He also is involved heavily with the tree planting. We invest $10,000 a year investing in tree planting throughout the municipality to help increase that tree coverage. So it's something that, yes, it will be more black and white. And when we can bring that policy forward, our goal is before year end, we can have that in place. It'll take care of maintenance, also removal of trees, planting of trees on town property, because a lot of times what happens is the resident will plant the tree. Could have been years ago on the town right away. The tree has grown and it becomes an issue. It's town property. It also will clearly define what right does a homeowner have. If a tree is on town property and it's growing up and there needs to be some trimming done on the individual homeowner's property, they have the right to do the trimming as long as it doesn't endanger the right of the tree, just like two residents. If there's two residents adjoining, the tree comes up, even if it's on residence A and it's overhanging into B, B can trim that tree as long as they don't endanger the life cycle up to the property line. They can't, carve it out and make it such that it's going to be detrimental to the tree or cause damage. So there is going to be an all-encompassing policy which should help alleviate a number of this. I would be naive to think that it would end it all, but certainly it'll put some teeth into it that, yes, the arborist, either our arborist or in the event that our arborist is not available, we would have an arborist from one of our tree trimming companies come in and do the assessment, make the call, and then move forward.
Okay, that sounds good. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Mr. Bartnick, to that, or?
No, I believe Mr. Anthony did cover it off. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Evans?
Just 1 second here. I'm not on mute. Very good. I just wanted to let you know, Mr. Mayor, that the policy that we do have in the scope says all healthy trees will not be considered for removal. So you are covered in what you have been indicating to residents.
Okay, sounds good, because I think we should be planting more trees, not cutting trees, for sure. Go ahead, Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, I just wish to kind of acknowledge, the efforts. I recently spoken with Mr. Anthony, and most likely, I'm sure Mr. Bartnick as well, about this, because I believe it is on the unfinished business. But I think as we've experienced more issues or occurrences of I'll just say things that have happened involving trees, I think we're trying our best to perhaps potentially incorporate, aspects that we've observed and new experiences into this policy. I agree with Mr. Anthony. It'll probably be impossible to develop a policy that will cover everything. But certainly if we can make it as broad and wide as possible, I think that would be great. And I appreciate the efforts of administration on this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, any further new business? So then we'll move on to, there is one item, a motion, call upon Deputy Mayor Joe Becchetti, and that was introduced last meeting. It's on County Road 34, speed reduction in school zone. This motion brought forward by Deputy Mayor Becchetti, and it's something that first I want to commend administration for doing the background work, and I'll tell you, this is what I like, black and white, and so great job. So I'll pass this on to Deputy Mayor Joe Becchetti, and at which time I'll be looking for a seconder to the motion.
Here, Mayor, the purpose of tonight's motion is to get support from our council, the town of Tecumseh, so that we can forward this to the County of Essex for consideration for support. Residents along County Road 34 have been asking for some support in terms of safety. There's a lot of truck traffic, a lot of speeding. They have a church, they have an elementary school, and they also have an active park along that stretch. So again, by bringing this forward, we're going to follow up with paperwork. They're frustrated that it hasn't gotten anywhere at the county level. So we want to make sure that when we do this, that we have all the information for county council to consider. I'm not going to read the whereas. I'll just do the hereby let it be resolved on this motion, if that's okay, that the County of Essex be requested to amend the speed limit on County Road 34 from 60 kilometers to 50 kilometers from Highway 3 to County Road 19, Manning, within the Maidstone Hamlet settlement area. And that the County of Essex be requested to designate a school zone with a speed limit of 40 kilometers on County Road 34 for the St. Mary's French Immersion Catholic School in accordance with procedure ECH R0611, traffic school designation for the Essex County Highways Best Management Practice Manual. And that this motion and background be sent to the clerk for the County of Essex, requesting they be placed on the next regular meeting of County Council's agenda for consideration. So I duly move that motion, Your Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and supported by Councilor Jobin. Certainly any questions or comments? Councilor Tonio.
I get it. Yep. Thank you. Just one question. I don't know if administration has thought of it, or I'm sure they thought of it. Community safety zone, designating it a community safety zone. Is that the next step we're thinking of? Or is it not qualify? It looks like it qualifies for a community safety zone with the school.
Now, there is a reference, I believe, in there that if I'm
I was trying to read.
150 meters on either side, I think, of that area, where the speed would be dropped to 40 in a community safety zone.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one on the whereas. It's quite lengthy, but it does make a reference there, Councilor Tonio, which is, thank you for bringing it up, just for the viewing audience, especially from that area. We'll see that as an important piece. Councilor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship, and not looking to really get in the weeds too much, but I know often I'm in rural Ontario for different reasons, and I've seen time variable school zones as well, which I don't know if that's necessarily in keeping with the intent of the motion. However, we don't seem to deploy them very much around here, but they do seem to be prevalent in other parts of Ontario. And so certainly I'd want I support the intent of the motion. We have a built up area with a school and a lot of community facilities and a very high rate of speed being intended for that area. And but maybe there are a variety of options out there that the county could consider beyond the status quo that we could support that research into, and not necessarily just a black or white decision.
Yeah, this area, Councillor Dowie, as well. If you know, it's not just the school, but it's tied in with a municipal park as well. When St. Mary's Park is there, and so that's a 12-month pretty much operation, and certainly in that regard. The biggest problem in that area is people, for whatever reason, they're coming off the Malden Road or off number 3 highway, and it's just trying to beat the corner, and doesn't make much sense. But creating you know, a little bit of havoc there, especially a lot of the big trucks and also the grain haulers that are going to the elevators. I think they're still in operation. But the crux of the matter, especially in that area, there is no sidewalks. There is no paved shoulder, and it's all gravel. And so there's a lot of pedestrian walking towards the school, the church, the cemetery, the park, etc. That it is a very difficult for them, and there's still a lot of young children. And there's roughly about 75. It's fairly built up, not like your traditional area, and it's a hamlet, you know, in certainly in particular. But those are I think the rationale why the folks on that stretch is there is no sidewalks. It's just a gravel shoulder, and so it makes it a little bit difficult for them. So speed is an issue, and because of school, park, church, cemetery, they're all the St. Mary's. I mean, it's the whole community within that area. I know that there are some areas in rural parts where there is no parks, it's just a school, and that makes sense, you know. And say between June and August, obviously it doesn't play into it, but there is Highway 3 to the north of it, and you know, and Manning Road, which are the two big throughways that I think I try and encourage folks to take those particular roads. So it might take them an extra 15 seconds if they take number 3 to Manning and down, than versus going through the other community. If it's inconvenient, if the speed is lowered a little bit, but I think the safety. This is something, and I know that Councillor Jobin is well aware, and Deputy Mayor Bichetti in the area is getting a lot of phone calls from a lot of the folks there. And it was very difficult to get a response back from the county over a long period of time. So it's, and the research, and this is why I said the research that administration has done on this really looks at the merits of exactly what the folks have been asking. So that's the reason. It's the safety, no sidewalks, and the combined school, park, church, and certainly cemetery within the same property. So, Councillor Jobin.
Yes, and just further to that, over the years, we were successful with the pathway on Malden Road because it is our road. And we have made inquiries and requests to the county to extend the sidewalk at St. Mary's that stops at the cemetery, to extend possibly up to Manning Road, and have that showcase as a gateway into our municipality. But again, with the county's relationship, the shoulder, one side is a massive municipal drain, the other side doesn't have much of a shoulder or frontage to work with, but maybe it is, again, also something we could explore to continue the sidewalk further to County Road 19 as a pathway, instead of just a full curb cut cement sidewalk, just an additional blacktop path like we do have on Malden Road. Maybe for another meeting, we'll push for that one.
Okay, Mr. Bartnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to Councillor Jobin's inquiry there about the pathway. So there there is a pathway that has been proposed in the Hamlet Secondary Plan, and we have incorporated that within our 5-year capital works plan. I believe within the next 3 to 4 years, it's been scheduled. So that would be a multi-use path on County Road 34 from Malden all the way out to Manning Road.
Okay. So there you have it. On the motion, no further questions. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried unanimous. Very good. All right. Well, we do have a bylaw. It's called a confirmatory bylaw if there's nothing further. So to confirm the proceedings of our meeting today. And so Councillor Altenhoff moves 3 readings to confirm the proceedings of this meeting. Councillor Houston supports. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. If there's no notices of motion, our next meeting will be Tuesday, October 27th at 4 p.m. We have a personnel committee meeting, followed by a special council meeting joint to community safety and well-being plan update, and then followed by our regular meeting of council. And no further questions or comments, then adjournment is in order. Members of council, Councillor Toniol and Councillor Houston, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Members of council, thank you for your indulgence this evening. Members of council and administration, and also those who were streaming live. We bid you good evening, and to everyone, stay safe, and until we meet again.